Hello, and welcome to another episode of Career Chat. I am Shannon Crooks, a librarian three at the Hillcrest Heights branch of the Prince George's County Memorial Library System. Each and every Wednesday at 3 p.m., we explore a new and exciting career. We hope that these careers inspire you and motivate you to think about other careers that you may be interested in pursuing or just to get more information about what's out there. On today's show, we have Fotini Christophollis, and she is an artist, a professional artist, and she is in New York City. Fatini and I go way back. We went to high school together, and it is great to see you, Fatini, today. And please share with us your career journey. So we're going to start off by um, our first question by asking you, what are your job duties and responsibilities as a professional artist?
Thanks for having me, Shannon. It's great to be here and see you again. So my responsibilities, being an artist is different for everyone. And one thing I've learned is that everyone's path is different, and you really have to be resilient and clear about yourself and who you are and pave your own path. So the day-to-day responsibilities will look different for every artist. For me, I tend to work in cycles creatively, also with the administrative side of things, the business side of things, which is really important too. So sometimes I'll just paint, and my day might be just all about the creativity, the research, the painting, producing the work. And then sometimes I go through other phases where my day will look like I'm just on the computer, updating my website or applying for shows or responding to emails or, so some days I kind of mix it all up, but some days I tend to kind of work like I'm all business or I'm all creative, and I go through cycles back and forth. So
Mm-hmm.
that tends to be kind of how I work. And my production side of it, normally, like when I start and come into the studio, I'll always have spend time researching. So I'll look for source material. I'll think about what I want to paint, the subject matter, what's inspiring me. I'll look at other artists. So I have kind of this research. I'll read, other artists' interviews or books or things like that. And I also write, I journal, or I just kind of, try to think about what it is I'm trying to communicate, kind of get clear on the content of it. And then I go into painting, and really, I might have kind of a vision or an idea of what I want, but in the process, something else might happen, or I'm always kind of open to that. And so it really is kind of all about the process and kind of discovering as I go. So I might start with kind of a idea of what I want, but I have to kind of go with the flow and let it evolve as I paint. So it's kind of a back and forth in that way, where I
Mm-hmm.
might have an idea, I paint, and then it becomes something else or something surprising or new. I step back, think about it, and then go back to it. So it's kind of like a push and pull between like preparation and process.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting. So, what was your educational path from high school to where you are now?
Yeah, so it's actually interesting. In high school, I did the International Baccalaureate program at Southside,
Mm-hmm.
the academic program, taking AP courses and things like that. And then I also studied dance at the Fine Arts Center, and so I actually got accepted into a BFA program at the Alvin Ailey American Dance Center and Fordham University in New York City. So I
Mm-hmm.
went there as a freshman, and that was a really exciting, great experience. And then through that year, I decided that I wanted to have more of a liberal arts education. So I
Mm-hmm.
transferred to the College of Charleston, came back to South Carolina,
Mm-hmm.
and it was at the College of Charleston that I discovered painting. So I was still I was still dancing at the time, and I was taking classics, and I was getting interested in ancient Greek and kind of archaeology. And I actually went on a trip to Greece, a summer study abroad to Greece, and I started sketching the things I was seeing and the things I was studying with my classics courses. So I was visiting temples, ancient sites, museums, and I started making drawings of it. And I started to kind of see this talent come through for visual art and for drawing. So I came back the next semester and I started to take more drawing and painting classes, and eventually ended up declaring a studio art major. So it's kind of this evolution of a lot of things that kind of led to where I'm at now. And I also studied arts management at the College of Charleston, so I double majored, and I found that was really, really helpful, especially right off, upon graduating, to get some business skills and to get some idea of marketing, and and how to have a career. And so the arts management kind of gave me a lot of those skills. And so when I finished, right after graduating, I organized a show with some of my peers, fellow graduates from the studio art department at the College of Charleston, in a gallery space. And that was my first show in a gallery. And so my arts management kind of gave me those skills of taking initiative and kind of making the phone calls, showing up, writing the emails, and trying to make things happen. So then I spent the next 5 years in Charleston. I got a studio space at Redux Contemporary Art Center, which was a really great organization in Charleston. And that organization was basically founded to help people like me, very early in their career, fresh out of college, ready to help them, give them some tools and resources to start a professional career. So it was basically a nonprofit organization. They had studio spaces. It was a large warehouse space, 20, 25 or so studios, maybe more than that, and a classroom as well as a gallery. So in the gallery, they presented nationally exhibiting contemporary artists. So I got to see these professional artists come through and learn from them and kind of see how a professional show is hung and installed, and kind of have conversations with them at openings and while they were there hanging the shows. So that was really inspiring to me as I was growing into a professional, and giving me like some tools and some understanding of how to be an artist. And I also got an opportunity to teach art classes in the classroom there. And through teaching, I was able to meet a lot of artists in classes, and that was a great experience for me too, to hone my craft more and kind of research and study. And so I spent 5 years teaching and working at Redux, and also doing shows in galleries in Charleston locally. And I received 2 local grants to produce 2 shows as an individual artist. So that was all the arts management training coming through, writing the grant and making the show happen, and kind of, figuring out how to have a career as an independent artist, which isn't, it can be daunting, to be kind of out on your own, trying to figure it out. So I was lucky to have that community in Charleston at Redux. That was kind of like a hub. So I was able to meet a lot of people and find opportunities there. And after 5 years, I felt like I was ready to pursue a graduate degree. So I applied to graduate school, and I got accepted into a program in Boston, Massachusetts. So I went to the School of the Museum of Fine Arts with Tufts University.
Wow.
And yeah, so in Boston, and that was a really great program and a great education. And I was so lucky to study with some of the best teachers and meet artists from all around the world. And I loved Boston for all of the universities there, and so many, students. So the academic life was very rich in Boston. So, I met other artists from other school, other different types of artists, musicians, other academics. And I just met a lot of people from kind of all over the place in Boston. And so that was a great experience. And I stayed in Boston 3 years after graduate school. And I started to meet a lot of musicians at Berklee College of Music. And I had a lot of interdisciplinary projects that I did during that time in Boston. So I did some live painting performances with music concerts and different types of collaborative projects. And that was really fun to kind of merge. And that was something that was so unique about Boston, is this kind of interdisciplinary experimentation. And so to kind of merge in with the performing arts and think about how I can contribute as a visual artist and learn from them as well. And that was a very exciting experience for me to do that. And so that was something different and unique about Boston. And then I felt like I wanted to experience the New York City art world and get a taste for New York. And I was taking frequent trips to see gallery shows from Boston to New York. And so I finally got to the point where I was going, enough times that I felt like I was ready to move to New York and try to make it as an artist there. So So I spent some time in New York, and I was so inspired by, the best of the best all around the world, art shows, galleries, museums, and meeting artists from all around the world. And so that was a next step in, coming from the graduate school academic life in Boston to the professional world in New York, and that was kind of a next step for me.
Mhm.
That was very exciting. And then in New York, the pandemic hit in March.
Mhm.
And so I decided to come back to Greenville, South Carolina, where I'm originally from, and kind of ride out the pandemic and just wait it out and see what happens. And so I've been here since March, and I've set up a studio, and I've just been painting. And I've been fortunate to keep making work and doing art shows. And I've also done graphic design work, freelance work. And so I had kind of that day job going for a while. And so I've been lucky to kind of keep working during the pandemic. So
Wow.
yeah.
So when you say you do work during the pandemic virtually, tell us a little bit about what that's like, what that process is like.
Yeah, so it's interesting. At first, when the pandemic first hit, for like about the first 2 months, I
Mhm.
was actually, I mean, of course, it was, so much anxiety, like with the pandemic and being safe and what's going to happen. But once I finally accepted that and adjusted, I really got into a really nice routine with painting. And I was actually very, kind of relieved in some ways to just have all the space and time to paint,
Mm.
just it was like an artist retreat.
Wow. Yeah, a lot of times we can't find the time to do the things that we love to do and that we're passionate about, but then the pandemic hits and then all this time is available to us and it's up to us how we spend that time.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's up to us. And it could go different directions. I mean, you could be anxious, you could, you know, um, definitely be hard. The social isolation is very difficult. But I think painting for me, I think I was lucky that I have painting to turn to, because that was a way for me to stay positive, through
Mhm.
it and stay creative. And so I was able to get some work done. And then I got to a point where I had kind of a new body of work created, and I started to submit my work to juried shows and trying to kind of get it out in front of an audience. And, I mean, I really miss the in person art show and going to art openings. But I was able to, I was part of virtual art shows over the summer at a
Mhm.
few galleries. And then late in the summer, I did a couple of shows, in person shows in galleries, and that I was able to go visit. Although the opening reception, they did have openings, it was much more limited than normal.
Mhm.
Maybe a quarter or less of maybe a normal attendance. So I
Mhm.
really missed the excitement of talking to people about my work. But I did get, it was just felt so good to me to see art again in person after like 6 months of only seeing things on a computer screen.
Mhm.
So that felt really good. And so there have been recently art, galleries opening again and museums opening again with safety measures and more limitations. But we're trying our best to keep going. And
Mhm.
I think as a painter, it's much I think it could be a lot more difficult to be a performing artist during this time, where you
Mhm.
rely so heavily on a live audience and
Mhm.
the live performance. So I've been lucky where I can keep painting and being totally alone in isolation. I normally do my work in isolation,
Mhm.
and then doing virtual shows when things were more shut down. And kind of having a gallery show, you can control it if you can control how many people come in, and wear a mask and stay safe. So there has been, I think visual art has been able to kind of keep going more than the live performance. All of Broadway being shut down in New York City, and
Mhm.
musicians canceling like months of gigs. And I mean, I think that can be a lot more difficult than the painting.
Mhm.
But I really, really miss the live audience and seeing people in person and going to see other artist shows and getting inspiration from them. So I'm finding I'm just trying my best to adapt to technology, and putting the work out on a website, on social media, having artist talks through Instagram Live or Zoom or Facebook Live or whatever we can do. So I've seen a lot of galleries do things like that during the pandemic, especially in the beginning, like Instagram Live, artist talks, gallery talks, things like that. Just trying to keep going and stay alive with it, and make the most of it. So we're trying, yeah.
Well,
So.
that's good that you can still continue to do what you love and pursue your profession further. So the next question is, how much time did you invest into getting to where you are now? You talked a little bit about it earlier.
Yeah, so I've been working, it's been undergrad and then graduate school. So time in school. And then, it's interesting because I finished undergrad and then I stayed in Charleston for a while and I had 5 years there. And so I worked and established myself there and got to a certain point. And then I moved to Boston and then worked and, graduated starting over again and then worked to a certain point and then went to New York. So it's kind of like I went to these different cities where I was starting over again. So it's like all this time, but still kind of this challenge of starting over again at a new level,
Mm-hmm.
kind of like the undergrad, post undergrad, then grad school, then post grad, and then professional, world in New York City. So it was like always starting over and working, but so much time invested in it,
Mm-hmm.
so that's interesting. And probably been painting for almost 15 years now,
Wow.
including school, so maybe 10 years, at least 10, 12 years professionally. So
Mm-hmm.
it's been been a lot of time and investment. But I feel like right now is a really exciting time for me because I'm really feeling like kind of a new era or a new phase or chapter,
Mm-hmm.
post graduate school and post pandemic, and kind of like coming thinking about 2021, like getting
Mm-hmm.
through this year and then kind of thinking about the new work I want to make. And so I feel kind of like this new kind of arriving in a new place that's really exciting to me. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what the future brings in the coming year. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
So, what kind of obstacles did you face in the pursuit of your profession? Did you have any challenges?
Yeah, definitely. So, one thing about being an artist is that you're always kind of starting with a blank canvas.
Mm-hmm.
And that includes with your, how your opportunities, or, how you're like every day is like a blank canvas. So you're always kind of having to be resilient
Mm-hmm.
and, kind of push through the unknown and create something. And also get through the discomfort, like in the middle of the creative process where you're like, oh god, this could go terribly, but you just have to keep pushing, and then
Mm-hmm.
you resolve it or you make something and you kind of succeed through it. So there's that very real possibility of failure in the creative process, but that's also part of the excitement and part of what drives you and keeps you going. So you
Mm-hmm.
kind of need that. It's like this kind of tension that you need.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think you really have to be strong in the face of that. Like you really have to like keep trying, until. So that's something I've been working on a lot these days. Is like, I think that a piece might not be exactly what I want it to be, but just try to make it work. Like try some, like don't give up on it. And some pieces you just knock out, like you just do it and it comes together like more quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it takes a lot, it's a lot harder to arrive, at the finished piece. And so I've just been trying to kind of keep getting through that, and like keep kind of trying to find some resolution or create something that feels satisfying through
Mm-hmm.
that kind of unknown or the tension, the
Mm-hmm.
anxiety of not knowing. So that's a real challenge just in the actual creative work, but also in finding a gallery show or finding opportunities or finding an audience. So you're always kind of starting with this blank canvas. And you just really have to keep trying, I find that when you just keep like believing in it and trying, then that's where when unexpected opportunities can come to you just out of the blue, or you can start to kind of create momentum, and one thing leads to the next. Like you get one show and then maybe someone comes in and sees it and invites you to another opportunity. So you
Mm-hmm.
might not know like what's going to happen long term, but you just have to keep believing in it and kind of trust the process, both in the creative work, also in the professional opportunities that you can
Mm-hmm.
find. So
It sounds like when opportunities come, you have to say yes, just
Mhm.
to see what the next opportunity could be, or you never know who you might meet. So I think sometimes, just as individuals with any opportunity, sometimes we say, oh, we don't want to do this because it's not the big opportunity that we wanted. But sometimes we have to say, okay, I'll say yes to the smaller opportunity because I never know what might happen at that opportunity. Someone might introduce me to someone or give me a different opportunity to explore. So you just never know.
Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly what you have to do. And that's what I've learned, like even like donating a piece to an art auction and showing up. You might meet someone who say, hey, I'd love to purchase your work, or I'd love to come visit your studio, or so some things that you might not really want to do, or you might think are smaller opportunities, and you might like want to wait until you get the big solo show in a gallery, but you know
Got to work up to that.
yeah, you really do. It's like one brick at a time. You just got to kind of keep laying the bricks and like building it up. And then something might happen unexpectedly. You might meet someone or get an invitation to something, or you never really know what's going to happen.
So,
um
how do you promote yourself or market your artwork?
yeah, so that's also, you have to be creative, and kind of go through the unknown with that. And there's a lot of different ways to go. So I think back in pre-pandemic days, I used to love going to art openings and meeting people, and maybe promoting your show or what you're doing kind of out in public, firsthand meeting people, or sending emails and following up to people, people that you're meeting in your network. These days, everything is happening online, so you really have to use your tools. Have a nice website, use social media. I think that's becoming important for artists these days. Instagram is a nice platform for artists to show their work. So I'm trying to kind of do that now, is figure out how to kind of use online resources
Mhm.
more and more. But I really do miss the in-person connection, because I found for me that was always really important to promote myself or any project I was doing, just trying to go out to, public events and meet people and always be ready. You're always kind of working in some ways.
Mhm.
Every time you're out at an opening, it's really all about, promoting yourself in some way, or networking in some way. So
Yes. So, viewers, if you're listening and you're an aspiring artist, take her advice and go to some art shows or art galleries and talk to people and network with people. Have maybe a business card ready, or maybe have your portfolio on you so you can easily show the information, or show your work to people so that they can get you to the next level or get you a gig or get you some type of opportunity. You just never know. And as Fotini has said, she uses a lot of resources online. She has a website that I wanted to share with everyone. So I'm going to share my screen. So this is Fotini's website. Let me see if I can move this. Oh, your work is so beautiful.
thank you.
Wow. So you want to talk to us about any of these pieces?
Yeah, so I work in series and cycles, and so the portfolio I have here on this website is a very different cycles through different periods, throughout the years that I've worked on, and just to kind of give a sample and a taste of my creative ideas, and my voice and my vision. So I started off working with oil on canvas, making kind of abstract figurative pieces, silhouetted figures, walking in ambient, abstract spaces, and landscapes and urban cities. And a lot of the cities were inspired from my travels and kind of a sense of wanderlust, and kind of seeing new things, but also like glimpses of memories. So I kind of see each piece as like this kind of glimpse of a memory, or this dream, or like maybe it was even lifetimes ago kind of memories, So that's kind of what I'm thinking about. And this series right here, this collection was all created during live painting performances with
Wow.
music concerts. Yeah, so I was kind of working with this kind of blossoming, abstract, ambient space, and kind of feeling the movement of the music, and kind of tuning into the vibe and the energy of the sounds I was hearing. as I was working. So
Wow.
yeah, so these were all inspired by the live painting performances. And I also write a lot when I'm in my process. I'm journaling, or I might be painting or taking a break from painting and then start writing, and some feeling will come to me. So a lot of these this text below the painting series are different, are different kind of like statements from that writing or from the journaling that I do. And so kind of little poetic statements, I think, is part of my work and part of who I am as an artist. And sometimes I find that that poetry can help me understand kind of what I'm trying to express, or like by writing it, I can kind of understand the vision
Mm.
as well. So it's kind of, I go back and forth between that as kind of part of it. So
So how often do you write or journal?
it depends. Sometimes I'll write every day before a painting session. It's kind of like that's part of my process, kind of like a meditation.
Mm-hmm.
And I just, just kind of stream of consciousness, just write without really thinking. Sometimes I'm writing more intentionally, more like poetry, and kind of prose statements to kind of understand the painting. So sometimes it's kind of more intentional, or kind of I'm really trying to process an idea or an image. And sometimes it's just as a way to kind of ground me and center myself before painting. So
Mm. These are really beautiful.
thank
Wow.
you. Yeah, so this series was the figurative works that I was painting with oil, and
Mm.
a lot of it was coming from my travels, and kind of when I was living in Charleston too, walking through the city streets and just kind of thinking about like glimpses of in time, moments in time, and kind of dreams, like a dreamscape of like what I've seen or what I desire to see.
Wow. It's so beautiful.
Thank
So
you.
I know art materials and mediums are very expensive. So let's say someone wants to get into art. What would you suggest that they do as far as getting materials?
Yeah, so that is a big part of it. And I've always had some sort of part-time job, or even in recent years I've worked full-time jobs to save money, to pay my studio rent and to buy supplies. So there's always kind of something you have to do to kind of find the funds. You could also write grants to receive funds for materials. So there's lots of different types of grants that you can receive. You can write a grant specifically just for your supplies for a period of time if you want to do a specific project to
Hmm.
prepare for a show, like 6 months or a year or whatever it is. You can receive grant money for that. So that's a really important thing to think about too, is as learning skills in grant writing,
Hmm.
and also applying for, maybe finding a sponsorship to, maybe you can apply for a residency to receive a studio space, and have a special period of time where you can devote to painting
Hmm.
with another network of artists.
Hmm.
So thinking about residencies is also really important for artists.
Hmm.
That can be really important too, to find opportunities maybe for galleries or future shows, to meet curators.
Hmm.
So residencies can be important, and also writing grants.
Hmm.
Or you can find some sort of job, part-time job or full-time job. So I've had a job before grad school teaching, which I found was really good. So some people teach. I also worked as a graphic designer,
Hmm.
as a day job. So finding the right fit, which is challenging, you really have to find the right fit for you,
Hmm.
whether it's full time to have more money and you can save up over time, or part time so you have more time to paint. So it's whatever is the best fit, or you can find, whatever you can find commercially to do with your art as well, whether it's going to be, gallery representation with a gallery, or maybe you reproduce your work in different types of products or prints, and try to focus more on running your own business.
Hmm.
Or maybe you focus on taking commissions, doing commission work, this specific niche, maybe it's portrait or landscape or mural painting or whatever. So every artist kind of has a different way of, running a business or finding the means to support their work and support themselves. So
Mm. So, what are some key skills that young people should think about acquiring that apply to all career fields?
yeah, so key skills, I think one of the most important things to think about would be to take initiative.
Mm-hmm.
To don't wait for something to come around. You want to see something happen, do it yourself, make it happen, produce your own show. I mean, sometimes that can be the best way. I've done that before in my past is, I have a friend who has a large studio space they rent out to have gallery shows. So I say, okay, I'm going to have a gallery show there and make a body of work. And maybe it's not this big solo show with the gallery that I want with the exposure, but I've created a body of work. I have new experience, new people have seen my work. So that with that body of work, I can apply for that gallery show, or I might find better opportunities. So I've seen that play out for me, that work out in that way for me. So I say just take an initiative, even if you think it might not be the greatest, biggest opportunity. I
Mm-hmm.
think that it's always better to put yourself out there.
Mm-hmm.
You have to kind of learn in the process. You have to be kind of in it to win it, and so that would be my biggest advice, is to not be afraid to get started and submit your work too. Like, you see juried shows, open calls, like, just put yourself out there. You might get rejected. Rejection is part of it. You have to get comfortable with that. You
Mm-hmm.
might apply for 10 shows and you get into one or two, but I think that's success. That's kind of what it takes,
Mm-hmm.
you know um,
Tell us more about what a juried show is.
So a juried show, you can basically apply for, gallery representation or a solo show with a gallery. You can also, there's all kinds of big group shows that galleries will have, and they have open calls. So I've been looking, there's different types of websites, where a lot of galleries will post their open calls
Mm-hmm.
that you can kind of look at. And I find that's a good way in the beginning when you're trying to build a career, is to
Mm-hmm.
try to get into group shows,
Mm-hmm.
to try to submit your work. So basically, like a large group show, maybe you submit 2 to 3 pieces and they accept one piece into the show, and there's maybe 50 artists, 50 pieces total that might have in the show. So you're in a large show with a lot of other artists. But
Mm-hmm.
if that's an international show, if it's a national show, you're selected from a pool of artists from all around the country or all around the world. And so that could be a really good opportunity to start to build relationships with galleries, to
Mm-hmm.
build your resume,
Mm-hmm.
your experience, and also to get exposure, put yourself out there. Maybe someone sees the work, or you go to the opening and you meet someone, or so I think things like that can be really good to build your career and
Mm-hmm.
try to find the bigger and better opportunities
Wow,
to get
that's
into
awesome.
shows. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you have a juried show, are you at the show talking with people about your work, or is there a description there? I've never been to a professional art gallery show.
Yeah, so pre-pandemic, everything was mostly in person, but
Mm-hmm.
still in the internet age, there's lots of virtual shows, but
Mm-hmm.
that's definitely been a lot bigger these days since the pandemic. So I think virtual shows are kind of having more credibility now, because galleries and artists are kind of have to do that, to stay safe, especially in the beginning of the pandemic. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so most shows will be in person and hung and installed in a gallery,
Mm-hmm.
and they usually always have an opening reception.
Mm-hmm.
Those openings have been, some galleries haven't had openings, or they'll put all their shows online now during the pandemic. But
Mm-hmm.
in normal times, yeah, there would be an opening, and you can go to the opening and meet other artists, or other people that maybe they're interested in your work.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so I've had that experience where I've done a lot of juried group shows where I've had opportunities to meet other people and build up my resume, which
Mm-hmm.
has been really good for me to kind of get to where I'm at now. So
Right. Do you sell your work at the art show, the gallery show?
yeah, so the work is always available for sale, so
Mm-hmm.
you always have that opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a gallery representation or a solo show with the gallery and they're representing that body of work, then they
Mm-hmm.
will do more work to actively sell your work on your behalf.
Mm-hmm.
So, getting gallery representation can be kind of a better way to sell your work. So, a juried show, they might not do that so much. So you might not have as greater chances of selling the work, but it is available for sale, and you might find someone who will be interested in purchasing your work. So,
Mm-hmm.
but I think it's best to build experience. It's more about like the experience,
Mm-hmm.
showing your work and building relationships with galleries is important. And eventually you can get your way to those bigger solo shows that
Oh,
will sell more of your work. So
wow. So what's a solo show like?
yeah, so a solo show is basically just you, one artist, filling up the whole gallery.
Mm-hmm.
And what's important about a solo show is really having a cohesive idea, really having a vision, a unique voice. That's what galleries are looking for. You
Mm-hmm.
get to a certain point where you have the skills and the training, but
Mm-hmm.
really it becomes about your mature voice. What's unique about your idea. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's what galleries are looking for at that point. And also where you fit in context with contemporary art and in context with other artists that maybe that gallery is showing, or kind of what the mission of the gallery is. So I
Mm-hmm.
think it's really about finding the right fit and really kind of pushing your own ideas further and really developing one idea completely.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe making 10 to 15 pieces
Mm-hmm.
around one idea rather than just like one or two in a larger group show, but really developing the work, maybe larger scale pieces, and really like having a complete vision around your idea. So.
So when you have a vision or an idea, are all the pieces related to that one idea, or is it different ideas, that correlate with each other?
Yeah, so if for a show, if you're kind of putting together a cohesive body of work, you really want to have like one strong, clear idea,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe make a series of works around that, to kind of tell that story of that concept, that vision, and kind of really complete the idea or realize it fully, I guess. Maybe you start with like one or two pieces, and then
Mm-hmm.
you just kind of keep pushing it and pushing it. But
Mm-hmm.
I think what's important is to create a cohesive um, body of work
Mm-hmm.
around kind of one strong idea.
Yeah, I really see that represented on your website. You've got each group of paintings categorized, and I can see the idea from the beginning to the end because all the paintings are related to that idea. So I like that. That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So that's kind of how I'm working, is kind of starting with one concept and then kind of repeating it in a cycle and kind of trying to realize it fully. So.
Mm,
So, and I
wow.
still have like the ideas that I have on the website are still, I feel like for me, like my ideas kind of follow me throughout my life, my career, and they're always kind of there, kind of like this repertoire of ideas, like a ballet company might always have this ballet that they go to, but they're also doing new ballets. But I kind of feel like I have that, like I always kind of have, you know, these ideas, even from the past, that are still kind of with me,
Mm,
that that during in time I might pursue again or realize in another iteration.
hmm.
So,
Wow, that's awesome. So
yeah.
interesting to hear about. Um, and I'm going to go to a gallery show now, or at least virtually, because you inspired me. I've always wanted to go, and I just haven't went. I've been to museums, a couple of times, but never an art gallery show. But now I want to go. I'm
Yeah,
inspired.
yeah, definitely go. Try to see if there's any good opening events and in your area, and just there's always a lot of galleries in different communities will have first Fridays, like so the first Friday of every month they'll open to a new show.
Hmm.
So thinking about like a finding a first Friday, maybe there's a little district in your city or the area you live where there's maybe a network of galleries that are all open at the same time. And you can
Hmm.
go kind of explore and pop in and see what's going on in the local community. So
Yeah, I'm definitely going to do that. You
Yeah.
inspired me.
Good.
What resources or recommendations do you have for people who want to pursue a career as a professional artist?
What resources or recommendations?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so let's see. I would say, if you want to pursue a career as an artist, thinking about education,
Mm-hmm.
do you want to get a degree? Do you want to go to, are you at the university level and want to find the best school? And you can find good art training in a liberal arts college, at a university, and also art schools.
Mm-hmm.
So I did my graduate school at an art school, and then I did
Okay.
undergrad at a liberal arts college, which for me, that worked out very well because I had kind of this well-rounded, college experience. My art program was it was very small, but it was also very good. So
Mm-hmm.
you don't necessarily need the biggest and the best, I think, right away. I think sometimes if you have one or two really good teachers,
Mm-hmm.
that can make the biggest difference. So really, if you're looking at art programs or you want to study at the college level, I would really look at the teachers. Look at their work, go to their websites, look at where they've shown their work, and see if you can find the best fit. If
Mm-hmm.
you're looking around at schools, art schools, universities, colleges, wherever, just really go to the art department website, look at the teachers, look who the department chair is, because that's going to influence a lot, and
Mm-hmm.
just look at their work and see if you can find the best fit.
Mm-hmm.
Also thinking about like what your interests are. Is it painting? Is it more traditional? Is it more contemporary? More
Mm-hmm.
conceptual? Like, do you want to make installation or video or photography, more technology? So
Mm-hmm.
thinking about those types of things, like what do you want to do technically? And
Mm-hmm.
also what do you want to do in terms of subject matter and concepts? Um, so I would think about those things. And also preparing for a professional career. You want to get your education, you want to get the skills and the resources in terms of just your craft, and also your concepts, your kind of ideas and where those come from. But you also want to know how you're gonna, support yourself, make
Mm-hmm.
a living. Do you want to live somewhere where you can live more affordably and have a bigger studio, or be able to kind of live, not have a full-time job but have a part-time job and maybe more time to paint? Or do you want to be, in the center of the arts hub in a bigger city where you can meet a lot of artists from all around the world and
Mm-hmm.
be kind of in that excitement, but then also have to deal with maybe taking a full-time job, or whatever you can find for the best fit. So there's always kind of a trade off. But I
Mm-hmm.
think thinking about, maybe do you want to teach or work in a gallery, or work, focus on arts administration, work for a nonprofit
Mm-hmm.
organization or for a museum. So there's lots of different directions that you can go professionally. So I think once you kind of get to the point where you can understand, how you want to make the work itself, and maybe finding a mentor,
Mm-hmm.
someone that can really help give you the tools and help you get there. And then also think about the practical aspects, how you want to make a living, how you want to pay your rent. Do you want to rent a studio, or you want to work from home? Like kind of
Mm-hmm.
thinking about all those practical aspects as well.
Mm. So, what if a young person wanted to volunteer somewhere? Is there places that will that will let them volunteer so they can kind of be in the mix of things and see people showing their work at a gallery or anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, I worked at a place, Redux Contemporary Arts Center in Charleston,
Mm-hmm.
and that was an arts hub. So if you can find like a community center or some sort of arts hub, a nonprofit arts organization can be a really good place to go. So
Mm-hmm.
if there's a nonprofit that has a diverse programming. So
Mm-hmm.
Redux had, the artist studio spaces. So there were active artists there working.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they would have open studios where you can go and walk around the studios and see what people are doing. They had
Mm-hmm.
the gallery, so they had openings, so you can see professional galleries being shown. And then they also had classes, so you could take a class. Or there was a weekly figure drawing session. You could pop in and meet other artists and practice drawing. So I think if you could find some community center like that, some hub where
Mhm.
there's multiple activities going on, and
Mhm.
just show up and ask to volunteer, ask to, help out, promote the show or hang the show. So I know at Redux there were lots of volunteers. There were lots of young people in school or just out of school, just wanting to learn and meet people and see what's going on. So I would
Yeah.
say try to focus on, maybe finding like a community center like that can be very exciting place to be, or multifaceted, like lots of different things going on.
Mhm.
Also maybe a museum, or a
Mhm.
gallery,
Mhm.
maybe helping out, just like um, you know, running, being there at the opening and just helping out with managing the people or helping install the show or anything like that. So maybe working with a gallery, even a gallery at a university. So if you're a student and you're studying, like go to the gallery. Usually universities have very, very nice programs at the galleries. And
They sure do.
so,
Yeah.
yeah, so I think maybe, academic galleries, nonprofit art centers, or a museum could be a good places to go.
Awesome. So, Fatini, do you enjoy what you do now?
Yeah, I love it. The more and more I work through the years, the more and more I love painting. And the more and more I realize that's really what I want to do. So I
Mhm.
think you get to a certain point where you come up with every idea, in a career that you could have, and then as you get older, you just get more and more clear on it.
Mhm.
I think for me, that's kind of my experience. And so really it's like everything is just all about how can I have more time to paint, and so how can I just have more time and like show it more and just kind of keep keep committing to that goal. So
Wow. And last question, when you first started your training and your education, where did you think you would be?
I really didn't know. I think I had kind of a unique journey because I discovered it along the way. So I
Mhm.
started off as a dancer, but I feel like my dance background strongly influences my identity as a visual artist. So I think it all comes together.
Mhm.
So I feel like you should never think like, oh, I came into this late, or, you know, I also did this thing, and how does that relate to this? I think to be an artist, your ideas and your work comes from your life,
Mhm.
and it all is a part of it. And so just like embrace it all, and so yeah, so I really just learned as I went, and really didn't know in the beginning, and that was kind of part of the excitement of the journey, I think. So,
Mm. Yeah,
yeah.
you kind of learn along the way and take each bit of what you've learned and implement it or, use it in some way in your career.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Even like my experience studying classics and going to Greece, I think that had a big influence, and is always part of kind of my intellectual interest, as an artist. So I think everything you do can be useful, and that's part of being an artist, is being resourceful and
Mhm.
being resilient. You kind of always, how can I use this? How can I make something out of this?
Mhm.
How can I also like distill this further to get clearer
Mhm.
on what I want? So there's
Wa-
always kind of like those, that push and pull, in the
mhm.
process. So.
Wow, amazing career journey. Thank you for everything you shared. And the last question is for me. What are some resources the library offers people who are new to the job market? Maybe you're changing careers, or maybe you're looking for new work due to the COVID-19 emergency. You can always visit us at our website at pgcmls.info and go to our online library. From there, you can visit our jobs and careers section, which has Brain Fuse and the Learning Express Library. You can get assistance with doing a career assessment, searching for jobs, updating and creating your resume, and getting expert feedback from a live job coach. There's also resources designed to help veterans navigate the Department of Veterans Affairs, and then for high school students to help you prepare for college. There's step by step guidance in helping you discover any of your interests with regard to careers, finding schools, programs, searching for job openings, and much more. We hope you'll visit us at pgcmls.info 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. All you need is your library card. If you are a PG County student, you can use your student ID card to access those resources. Again, I am Shannon Crooks, a librarian 3 with the Hillcrest Heights branch of the Prince George's County Memorial Library System. It was wonderful having you here today, Fotini. We enjoyed everything you said. I especially enjoyed your career journey, and I hope you have the best luck throughout the rest of your career as a professional artist.
Thank you so much, Shannon. Thank you for your time. It was such a pleasure to share my experience with you, and I hope in some way I can inspire anyone who is interested in art or might just like to start popping into a gallery from time to time. So
Yes, I'm definitely going to visit a gallery now that you've told me
great.
how it works. I just thought, I don't know what I thought, but I'm going to visit now.
Sounds
Okay.
sounds
Thank you so much, viewers, and join us again each and every Wednesday at 3 p.m. as we explore a new and exciting career. Have a great day and continue to stay safe.
Thank you. Thank you all for watching.
Yes, thank you.